but I will not be talking about it. I'm going to be talking about one of the problems that governments and other power structures have, such as large corporations and whatever. So in order to control people, in order to coerce them into performing a particular set of ways, they have to employ power. One way to use power is called knowledge power, and if you've heard of the panopticon idea, it's where, how many people are familiar with the panopticon, by the way? Okay, almost everyone. So that merely by the fact that you know you are being watched, the government or the corporation you work for, who reads your email, is able to exert power and control over you, even without actual surveillance. So the government has resources to put cameras everywhere and somewhat man them. So London is a great example. It's filled with cameras. Some of them get watched to get some crime solved, but it's also a general way for the government to observe their populace. What can we do to even that out? So CCIDing is really about kind of providing an alternative, but I also like to do things within the system in a way that help us deal with existing governments, existing power structures. My company that I work for, we actually have a video summarization product. I'm not going to be talking about what we do, but mostly about kind of implications of that technology. What we're able to do is we're able to, say, take an hour of video and condense it into 30 seconds to a couple minutes of the kind of highlights of what has occurred. What a system such as that will let people do is it will let them take their camera equipment, their webcams, what have you, point them into the streets and have a parallel system of surveillance that is no longer run by the government, that is run by us. And having a technology behind it, so, I mean, we could do this 5 years ago. We have webcams, we have internet connections, we can point out in the streets. The thing that is different now is that you could turn in the street, have this giant video archive that is constantly being created, and the governments are having that problem as well, and they don't actually have a solution yet. We'd be able to take that and condense it into something that the few who are willing to provide their time into looking at it would be able to enjoy. It's sort of like turning every single webcam into a distributed Rodney King cam, thus returning kind of knowledge power to the people, and that's basically it.
Oh, that's it?
Yes.
Wow, great.
I've been thinking some about the issue of like cameras and surveillance, and kind of the idea I came up with is that fixed cameras, with readily identifiable owners, i.e. subpoenable material is a bad thing, but mobile cameras where you don't know where they're going to be and who controls them is a good thing in terms of the sort of public versus government.
Definitely. So like there's more and more services for live streaming off of your phones. Quick.com is probably the biggest one, but there's a few others. Over there? You?
So I'm really glad that you're bringing up this topic. This is something I was thinking about very recently because I was talking to a friend of minority descent here in America, a professional person of good character who found himself being routinely stopped by the police, statistically far beyond that of your average individual. And I was wondering to myself whether just like the police all have cameras on their vehicles to be able to record incidences with the people they come in contact with, an interesting form of what you've just described would be citizen cam on your vehicle in particular, perhaps particularly marketed.
That's one of the actually scariest developments in the U.S. right now in general, is the fact that first, it is illegal in many states to record your interaction with police. Even if it isn't, they tend to apply various wiretapping laws that seem in some cases applicable, in some cases I'm amazed that they weren't thrown out of court. So in most of the US you cannot actually do it, and if you can by the letter of the law, they will in fact apply laws that seem peripheral to make that illegal.
So I think one way to do this is then, in creating a product that you can sell, you also have now an organization that can back the legal application of the use of that product.
Perhaps.
In a way that, say, some dude with a camera is not going to be able to fight their way through the structure to have permission to use that information.
So perhaps bigger companies such as Quick and I don't really know any other major players like Ustream, Justin TV, etc. As they get bigger, currently they're relatively small startups and will not be able to support many.
Particularly using that for racial profiling.
Presumably, if you had this massive body of work or of
body of video that the public was using, that the government could just as easily use that massive body as well, and to augment what it was doing.
The issue is about equalizing, right? If the government can also use it, so the thing I like to say about Transparent Society is that I don't care if the president of the U.S. knows when I'm taking a shit, as long as I know when he's taking a shit. Right? Like that's the thing. As soon as you have the kind of equal treatment, well, yeah, so the government will be able to perhaps catch people and then sue them for whatever. In some cases, I may agree with it. In some cases, I may not agree with it. But it would give the exact same resources to people, which is the important part. If you're enabling the job of the government to be slightly easier, you're still bringing kind of the populace up here, even though the government might inch up a little bit.
One more question?
So we already have a lot of cameras, or certain sorts of cameras that capture just about everything that happens in the entire world. They're called satellites, right? And they're looking down at the ground. So what if we use this idea and sort of patched it into something like Google Maps, where everything was geocoded and you can...
That's actually something else we thought is we can take all webcams in the world, geocode them such that rather than seeing complete live streams from everywhere, you could sort of be walking around Google Earth and seeing the most relevant, like, last few minutes, and also going back through history. And it's also because of the way the algorithm works is that it's not just kind of motion, right? If you point it at a commotion, like a big crowd, it will notice unusual effects in the crowd rather than just the fact that there's a lot of movement, a lot of noise.
You could even turn it into like a 3D virtual world where you could walk around an event because it's been filmed from various different angles historically. You could say, what happened at this space a year ago?
If you've seen Microsoft's photosynth,
yeah,
imagine that in video with temporal aspect, where the same technology can be applied to not just figuring out what is interesting, but also which one of these cameras is the optimal for capturing this particular event. So you'd be applying, rather than kind of a 3D mapping, you'd be figuring out at what point in time should each video frame come from.
Thank you.